The arrival. John Reyes's lungs seized as he jerked awake inside his cryopod, gasping for air. The icy grip of terror squeezed his chest as he struggled to shake off the effects of cryosleep. His eyes snapped open, and he found himself staring through the frost-covered glass of the pod. He slammed the release button, and the pod hissed open, tumbling out onto the metal floor of the Aurora's cryobay. Reyes's bones ached, and his muscles cramped as he tried to regain his bearings. Around him, hundreds of other cryopods were opening, groggy colonists staggering out, coughing and retching. They had been in cryosleep for the long journey to Alpha Centauri, tasked with establishing a new home for humanity. This was supposed to be a new beginning, but as Reyes looked around, it felt more like an end. On the distant homeworld of the Tenketh, the High Council chamber erupted into chaos. "You hired humans. Have you lost your mind?" One of the counselors spat, his voice tinged with disbelief. The room was filled with alien delegates, their scales shimmering with agitation. The Vokai scourge had ravaged the galaxy, leaving entire civilizations in ruins. Now, they were at the doorstep of the Tenketh's homeworld. The stakes couldn't be higher. Umbra, the council leader, remained resolute amidst the uproar. "We have no choice," he said grimly. "I have studied the humans extensively. Their history is brutal and their wars savage. They are unpredictable and vicious, but that's exactly what we need. The Vokai are monsters, and to beat them, we need our own monsters." Another counselor's voice cut through the chaos, filled with skepticism. "This is insanity. We're placing our trust in these depraved, hairless apes." Umbra's gaze was unwavering. "They are a weapon, the deadliest weapon in the universe. If we do not act now, we are already dead." His words were heavy with the gravity of their situation. The Tenketh needed a miracle, and Umbra believed that humanity might be it. In the depths of New Haven, a scarred, battle-hardened man named Joseph Gray was exactly the kind of lethal weapon Umbra was looking for. Gray had seen the worst of what the universe had to offer. For a decade, he'd been an elite special forces operator, honing his skills in the flames of war until he burned out, jaded and disillusioned. He had drifted through life, selling his deadly talents to the highest bidder. Yet, despite his hardened exterior, an ember of honor still burned within him, a yearning for something more than his empty existence as a hired gun. When an alien in strange robes approached him in a cyber bar and offered him the job of a lifetime, that ember flared to life. The Tenketh needed the best human warriors, and Gray was ready to provide them. His old teammates, cast-offs and mavericks, were a ragtag group of warriors broken by the world, but forged into instruments of war. If it took monsters to kill monsters, Gray would build the most fearsome pack of human monsters the galaxy had ever seen. The Tenketh's emissaries looked upon the humans with revulsion and mistrust. Gray understood their feelings. He had seen the darkness lurking in the human heart, but he also knew the heights humanity could rise to. It was his job to make the Tenketh see it too, to mold his warriors into a cohesive unit and earn the respect of the Tenketh even as the specter of galactic annihilation loomed. Failure was not an option. Trillions of lives across hundreds of worlds depended on Gray and his band of human warriors. They were the shield against the onrushing storm, the Tenketh's last desperate hope. Gray knew the odds. He knew the risks. One false step, and they'd all burn. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was spitting in the face of the odds. It was time to show the galaxy what a few exceptional humans could do. It was time to bring the monsters to heel. As Gray and his team stepped out of the dropship onto the blasted hellscape of Arik Prime, they were greeted by a scene of utter devastation. The once thriving Tenketh colony was in ruins. The towering spires had been reduced to rubble, and the streets were choked with the bodies of the fallen. The air was thick with smoke, blood, and death. "Jesus," muttered Lazarus, taking in the devastation with a grim set to his scarred features. "Looks like we're in for one hell of a fight, boys." Gray nodded, his icy blue gaze already scanning the horizon for threats. A Tenketh officer, his pristine armor battered and scorched, hurried up to the humans. "Commander Gray, thank the gods you've come," the alien said, his voice laced with exhaustion and desperation. "The Volkai are pressing on all fronts. Our lines are about to collapse. We need your team at the forward defenses immediately." "Lead the way," Gray replied, already checking the charge on his pulse rifle as they double-timed it through the ruined streets. The sounds of battle grew louder: weapon fire, explosions, and the screams of the dying. The air was filled with the staccato bark of weapons fire and the bone-shaking thrum of explosions. The reality of the Volkai war machine was a savage nightmare, a relentless storm of destruction that threatened to overwhelm the Tenketh defenders. Gray's team was about to face the full fury of the Volkai's assault, and their survival, and perhaps the survival of the galaxy itself, would depend on their ability to adapt, to fight with every ounce of their strength, and to turn the tide of this desperate conflict. The front lines. The deafening roar of battle grew louder as Gray's team advanced toward the forward defenses. The cityscape of Arik Prime, once a marvel of alien engineering, was now a chaotic battleground. Tenketh soldiers, clad in their ornate, yet battered, armor, fought valiantly, but were clearly outmatched by the relentless Volkai assault. The air crackled with energy weapon fire, and the ground trembled with the impact of heavy artillery. Gray's team moved with practiced efficiency, their experience in combat evident in their every action. Lazarus, a hulking figure with a cybernetic arm, took point, his heavy machine gun laying down a suppressive barrage that cleared a path through the enemy ranks. Rico, the team's tech specialist, worked swiftly to hack into the alien communications network, trying to intercept enemy orders and disrupt their coordination. Amidst the chaos, Gray kept his focus on the bigger picture. He could see the desperation in the eyes of the Tenketh soldiers. Their once proud defenses were crumbling under the weight of the Volkai onslaught. He knew that the key to turning the tide was not just brute force, but also strategy and psychological warfare. As they reached the perimeter of the defensive line, Gray and his team were met by Colonel Zorak, the Tenketh officer who had summoned them. Zorak's face was a mask of grim determination, but there was a flicker of hope in his eyes as he saw the human reinforcements. "Commander Gray," Zorak shouted over the din of battle, "we've managed to hold this position, but the Volkai are preparing for a full-scale assault. They've breached our secondary defenses, and if they get through here, they'll reach the heart of the city." Gray nodded, his mind already working on a plan. "We need to stabilize this front. Get your engineers to reinforce the barriers and set up any remaining turrets. We'll hold the line and counterattack when the time is right." Zorak relayed the orders with a nod, and Gray's team fell into position. The Volkai were a nightmarish sight, grotesque, insectoid creatures with a hive mind that drove them with relentless efficiency. Their numbers were overwhelming, and their tactics brutal. Yet Gray knew that humanity's strength lay in its adaptability and creativity, qualities that had been honed through centuries of conflict and survival. As the Volkai pushed forward, the humans' countermeasures began to show their effectiveness. Explosives strategically placed by Rico created deadly traps that decimated enemy waves, while Lazarus's heavy fire kept the Volkai at bay. Meanwhile, Gray and his squad mates engaged in close-quarters combat, their training allowing them to handle the alien menace with lethal precision. But the battle was far from won. The Volkai adapted quickly, their hive mind reacting with eerie efficiency to every tactic employed by Gray's team. They began to concentrate their firepower and deploy specialized units designed to breach fortified positions. Gray could see the danger in their movements and knew that they needed to outthink the enemy, not just outfight them. "Rico, we need to create a diversion," Gray ordered, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "Find a way to disrupt their communications and draw their focus away from our position." Rico's fingers flew over his portable terminal, weaving a web of false signals and misleading data that sowed confusion among the Volkai ranks. The effect was immediate. The Volkai began to scatter, their coordinated assault faltering as they scrambled to respond to the fabricated threats. The temporary reprieve allowed Gray's team to regroup and reassess their strategy. They fortified their position with salvaged materials and alien technology, creating a makeshift stronghold that could withstand the Volkai's relentless assault. The Tenketh soldiers, inspired by the humans' tenacity, rallied with renewed vigor, their morale buoyed by the unexpected turn of events. Just as they were starting to gain ground, a massive Volkai war machine, a towering behemoth of metal and organic matter, emerged from the smoke and debris. Its weapon systems were formidable, and its presence sent a wave of fear through the Tenketh ranks. The war machine began to target the newly fortified defenses, its powerful energy blasts reducing their barriers to rubble. Gray's heart raced as he assessed the situation. The Volkai war machine was a game-changer, and they needed to take it down to prevent the total collapse of their defenses. Lazarus, get to the flank and set up a position for a concentrated assault. Rico, prepare an EMP charge. We need to disable that thing before it breaches our defenses. The team sprang into action. Lazarus moved with grim determination, positioning himself for a devastating attack. Rico's EMP charge was carefully placed, aimed at the war machine's power core. With a signal from Gray, the charge detonated, sending a surge of electromagnetic energy that short-circuited the war machine's systems. The massive construct staggered, its weapon systems momentarily disabled. The Volkai crew scrambled to restore functionality, but Gray's team took advantage of the opening. Lazarus unleashed a barrage of high-explosive rounds, and Gray led a coordinated assault with precision fire that finally brought the war machine crashing to the ground. With the immediate threat neutralized, Gray and his team turned their attention back to the broader battlefield. The Tenketh defenders had managed to regroup, their morale boosted by the defeat of the Volkai war machine. The tide of battle had shifted, but the conflict was far from over. As the first light of dawn began to break through the smoky haze, Gray stood amidst the wreckage, his breath visible in the chilly morning air. The battle had been a brutal testament to the ferocity of the Volkai and the resilience of both the Tenketh and the humans. But it was only the beginning of a long and arduous campaign. The true test of their resolve was yet to come. The stakes were high, and the fate of Arik Prime, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on their shoulders. Gray knew that this was just the first of many battles, but as he looked around at the determined faces of his team and their alien allies, he felt a spark of hope. Humanity had faced impossible odds before and had always found a way to prevail. It was time to show the universe that this time would be no different. Unlikely alliances. The aftermath of the battle left the streets of Arik Prime in ruins, a stark reminder of the ferocity of the recent conflict. The once grand city, renowned for its towering spires and gleaming technology, now lay in tatters, with debris and smoke filling the air. Amid the destruction, Gray and his team worked tirelessly alongside the Tenketh to assess the damage and begin repairs. Gray stood with Colonel Zorak on a makeshift command platform overlooking the devastated sector. The Tenketh officer's normally proud bearing was tempered by the gravity of their situation. Zorak's gaze swept over the wreckage, and he finally spoke, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "We owe you a great debt, Commander Gray. Your presence here has turned the tide in a battle we were close to losing. But the Volkai are relentless. This was only one front in a much larger war." Gray nodded, his mind already shifting to the next steps. "We've bought ourselves some time, but it won't be long before the Volkai regroup and strike again. We need to strengthen our defenses and prepare for a sustained campaign. What's the status of the other sectors?" Zorak's expression darkened. "The other sectors are holding, but barely. We've managed to establish a few defensive lines, but the Volkai are probing for weaknesses. They're more organized than we anticipated, and their hive mind allows them to adapt quickly." Gray's eyes narrowed. "We need to disrupt their coordination. If we can create confusion within their ranks, it might give us the edge we need." Rico, who had been analyzing data from his portable terminal, chimed in. "I've intercepted some of their communications. It looks like they're planning a major push in the southern sector. If we can set up a trap and lure them into a vulnerable position, we might be able to inflict significant damage." Zorak's eyes widened at the suggestion. "A bold plan, but it could work. We've got some experimental technology that we've been developing. It's untested, but it might give us an advantage." Gray raised an eyebrow. "What kind of technology?" Zorak led them to a secure lab hidden beneath the rubble. Inside, various alien devices and prototypes were strewn about. The centerpiece was a sleek, crystalline device with an array of energy emitters. "This is a resonance disruptor. It's designed to interfere with energy fields and communications. If we can deploy it in the right location, it might destabilize their hive mind coordination." Gray studied the device, his mind racing with possibilities. If it works as intended, it could create chaos among the Volkai and give us the opening we need. But it's risky. We'll need to deploy it in the heart of their operations. With a determined nod, Gray and his team prepared for the next phase of their mission. The plan was set. They would lure the Volkai into a trap, using their experimental technology to disrupt their hive mind and create an opportunity for a decisive counterattack. As night fell, Gray's team, along with a contingent of Tenketh soldiers, set out for the southern sector. The area was heavily guarded, but their stealth and ingenuity allowed them to bypass the initial defenses. The Volkai, ever alert, had set up a complex network of sensors and patrols, but Gray's team managed to outmaneuver them, setting up their own traps and decoys to mislead the enemy. When the Volkai finally launched their anticipated assault, they were met with a series of well-coordinated defenses and countermeasures. Gray's team used the resonance disruptor to its fullest effect, creating localized energy surges that interfered with the Volkai's communications and navigation systems. The Volkai forces faltered, their hive mind temporarily disoriented and confused. The disruption allowed the human and Tenketh forces to launch a coordinated counteroffensive. The Volkai, unable to effectively communicate or organize their efforts, were thrown into disarray. The battle that followed was fierce, but the advantage now lay with the defenders. With each passing hour, the tide turned further in their favor. Gray fought alongside the Tenketh soldiers, his tactical acumen and combat skills making a significant difference on the battlefield. The Volkai, though resilient, were no match for the combined might of the human and Tenketh forces working in unison. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the once formidable Volkai assault was broken. The southern sector, though battered, was secured. The resonance disruptor had proven to be a game-changer, and the Volkai's coordinated efforts were thrown into chaos. Exhausted but victorious, Gray and his team regrouped with Zorak and other key Tenketh leaders. The mood was one of cautious optimism. The immediate threat had been repelled, but the war was far from over. Zorak approached Gray, his expression a mixture of relief and respect. "You've shown us that humans are more than just mercenaries. You're allies we can trust. Your ingenuity and bravery have given us hope in what seemed like an impossible situation." Gray nodded, a tired smile on his face. "We're here to win this war, not just survive it. We'll keep fighting until the Volkai are driven back and peace is restored." As the sun rose over the shattered city, Gray's team began the arduous task of rebuilding and preparing for the next battle. The Volkai were still a formidable enemy, but the recent victories had demonstrated the strength of their alliance and the potential for victory. The fight was far from over, but humanity and the Tenketh had proven that, together, they could face even the most daunting of challenges. Shadows of betrayal. The victory in the southern sector had given the human and Tenketh forces a much-needed respite, but the war was far from over. As Gray and his team settled into a temporary base for repairs and recuperation, they knew that the Volkai would regroup and come at them with renewed determination. The question on everyone's mind was how to stay one step ahead of the enemy. The command center buzzed with activity as Gray reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The holographic displays flickered with maps and data, painting a picture of a galaxy in turmoil. The Tenketh had managed to secure their immediate surroundings, but the Volkai were advancing on other fronts, creating a situation of constant pressure. Colonel Sorak, ever the pragmatist, had gathered the top leaders from both the Tenketh and the human contingents for a strategic meeting. The room was filled with a tense atmosphere as Gray and Sorak outlined their plans and discussed their options. "We've held our ground in the southern sector," Sorak began, "but we're facing a broader strategic problem. The Volkai are adapting rapidly, and their hive mind allows them to shift tactics with little notice. We need to disrupt their coordination on a larger scale." As they regrouped, Sorak approached Gray, his expression one of profound gratitude. "You've done the impossible. By destroying their core node, you've severely crippled their hive mind. This will change the course of the war." Gray's eyes were weary but resolute. "It's a step forward, but there's still more to be done. The Volkai won't be finished yet. We need to stay vigilant and keep pushing forward." The victory was a significant one, but it was only a part of a much larger conflict. As Gray and his team prepared for the next phase of their struggle, they knew that their fight was far from over. The war against the Volkai continued, and every battle brought them closer to the ultimate goal of securing peace and survival. Echoes of uncertainty. The destruction of the Volkai core node had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, destabilizing the Volkai's hive mind and giving the humans and their Tenketh allies a significant advantage. But with this victory came new challenges. The Volkai, though disorganized, were not defeated. Their resilience and adaptability meant that the war was far from over. Gray and his team returned to their base, their spirits lifted by their recent success, but tempered by the knowledge that the conflict was far from resolved. The command center was abuzz with activity as reports and updates flowed in from various fronts. Colonel Sorak, looking both relieved and concerned, convened a meeting with Gray and his key advisors. "The disruption to the Volkai's hive mind has created a power vacuum," Sorak began. "We're seeing a rise in internal conflicts among their ranks. This is an opportunity, but it's also a risk. We need to capitalize on their disarray while being cautious of potential retaliatory strikes." Gray nodded, taking in the gravity of the situation. "We need to maintain pressure and prevent them from regrouping, but we also have to be prepared for anything. The Volkai might attempt to adapt quickly, and we can't afford to underestimate their capabilities." The team spent the next few days preparing for their next move. They focused on consolidating their gains, fortifying their positions, and planning strategic operations to keep the Volkai off balance. Intelligence reports indicated that the Volkai were attempting to reorganize their forces and seek new sources of control. Meanwhile, the Tenketh leadership had their own concerns. The recent victory had caused a shift in their strategic outlook, and the political climate among the Tenketh was increasingly volatile. There were factions within their ranks that viewed the humans with suspicion, questioning the effectiveness and reliability of their new allies. Gray had to navigate these complex dynamics while continuing to lead his team. He knew that maintaining strong relations with the Tenketh was crucial for the success of their joint efforts. Diplomacy and trust-building became as important as military strategy. One evening, as Gray was reviewing reports in his quarters, an unexpected visitor arrived. Mara, a Tenketh diplomat who had been instrumental in negotiating the alliance between their species. Her presence was a reminder of the delicate balance they were trying to maintain. "Mara," Gray greeted her with a nod. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Mara's expression was serious. "I wanted to speak with you about the current situation. There's growing unrest among the Tenketh leadership. Some see the humans as a liability rather than an asset. They're questioning our continued partnership." Gray sighed, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We've faced a lot of challenges together, and our cooperation has been crucial. But I know there are doubts. What can we do to address them?" Mara considered for a moment before responding. "We need to demonstrate the value of this alliance. A successful operation that highlights the strength of our combined forces could help quell dissent and solidify our position. Gray agreed. I'm planning a major offensive to target a key Volkai stronghold. If we can achieve a decisive victory, it might help reinforce the importance of our partnership. I'll need your support in convincing the Tenketh leadership of the benefits of this operation. Mara nodded. I'll do everything I can to rally support. But remember, the Tenketh are a proud people. They need to see concrete results. With Mara's support, Gray and his team prepared for their next major operation. The target was a heavily fortified Volkai stronghold located on a distant planet. The stronghold was a critical node in the Volkai's attempts to reorganize and launch counterattacks. Gray nodded in agreement. We've seen how effective the resonance disruptor was in disorienting them. If we can deploy more of these devices in key locations, we might be able to break their control over multiple fronts. Rico, who had been studying the data, spoke up. There's another angle we should consider. The Volkai hive mind relies heavily on a central core. If we can locate and target this core, we might be able to cause a significant disruption across their network. Sorak's eyes widened. You mean a core node? That's a risky move, but if we could locate it and strike, it could cripple their hive mind. Gray's expression was serious. The problem is finding it. We need intelligence on the Volkai's central command structure. If we can identify the location of the core node, we can plan a targeted assault. As the team set about gathering more intelligence, they uncovered troubling news. Reports from their scouts indicated a significant buildup of Volkai forces in a remote sector known as the Dark Nebula. The region was known for its hazardous conditions, making it a difficult area to navigate, but it was clear that the Volkai were preparing for something large. Sorak was visibly concerned. The Dark Nebula has long been a point of interest for the Volkai. If they're consolidating their forces there, it could be an indication of a major offensive. Gray's mind raced. We need to investigate. If the Volkai are massing their forces, it's likely they're planning something significant. We'll need to gather reconnaissance and prepare for a possible engagement. The team set out on a covert mission to the Dark Nebula, navigating through treacherous space and avoiding Volkai patrols. The nebula's dense gases and gravitational anomalies made it a challenging environment, but Gray's team was skilled in maneuvering through difficult terrain. As they approached the heart of the nebula, they detected an extensive Volkai fleet. The sheer scale of the operation was staggering. The Volkai had established a massive base within the nebula, complete with advanced defensive systems and a network of communication arrays. Gray and his team gathered crucial intelligence, including schematics of the base and details about the Volkai's command structure. It became apparent that the base was not just a military installation, but also a hub for their hive mind network. The central core node was likely located within the heart of this base. With the intelligence in hand, Gray and Sorak devised a plan for a daring strike. The mission would involve infiltrating the Volkai base, planting resonance disruptors to destabilize their defenses, and targeting the core node to cripple their hive mind. The operation was fraught with danger, but it was a chance to deal a decisive blow to the Volkai's war effort. The night before the mission, Gray sat with his team in their temporary quarters, reflecting on the risks and the stakes involved. The camaraderie among the team was palpable, and the weight of their mission was evident in their focused expressions. Rico broke the silence. Tomorrow is going to be tough, but we've come this far together. We know what's at stake, and we've proven we can handle whatever they throw at us. Gray nodded. We're fighting for more than just survival. We're fighting for our future and for the chance to make a difference. Stay sharp, trust each other, and we'll get through this. As dawn broke, the team set out for the Volkai base. The operation was precise and high-risk, involving a combination of stealth, deception, and direct assault. They managed to infiltrate the base, planting resonance disruptors and creating enough chaos to breach the inner sanctum. The final phase of the mission was a fierce battle. The team fought their way to the core node, navigating through a maze of Volkii forces and defensive systems. The resonance disruptors caused significant disruptions, but the Volkii were determined and fought fiercely to protect their central command. Gray's team, through sheer determination and skill, managed to reach the core node. With a final coordinated effort, they deployed a series of high-intensity disruptors designed to overload the core and sever the hive mind's control. The explosion that followed was a brilliant flash of energy, and the effects were immediate. The Volkii forces were thrown into disarray, their hive mind severed. The once coordinated enemy was now a chaotic, disorganized mass. With the core node destroyed, Gray's team made their escape, navigating through the debris and avoiding the Volkii's desperate counterattacks. The mission had been a success, but the cost had been high. The battle had taken its toll, and the team returned to their base battered but victorious. The arrival. John Reyes's lungs seized as he jerked awake inside his cryopod, gasping for air. The icy grip of terror squeezed his chest as he struggled to shake off the effects of cryosleep. His eyes snapped open, and he found himself staring through the frost-covered glass of the pod. He slammed the release button, and the pod hissed open, tumbling out onto the metal floor of the Aurora's cryobay. Reyes's bones ached, and his muscles cramped as he tried to regain his bearings. Around him, hundreds of other cryopods were opening, groggy colonists staggering out, coughing and retching. They had been in cryosleep for the long journey to Alpha Centauri, tasked with establishing a new home for humanity. This was supposed to be a new beginning, but as Reyes looked around, it felt more like an end. On the distant homeworld of the Tenketh, the High Council chamber erupted into chaos. "You hired humans. Have you lost your mind?" One of the counselors spat, his voice tinged with disbelief. The room was filled with alien delegates, their scales shimmering with agitation. The Volkii scourge had ravaged the galaxy, leaving entire civilizations in ruins. Now, they were at the doorstep of the Tenketh's homeworld. The stakes couldn't be higher. Umbra, the council leader, remained resolute amidst the uproar. "We have no choice," he said grimly. "I have studied the humans extensively. Their history is brutal and their wars savage. They are unpredictable and vicious, but that's exactly what we need. The Volkii are monsters, and to beat them, we need our own monsters." Another counselor's voice cut through the chaos, filled with skepticism. "This is insanity. We're placing our trust in these depraved, hairless apes." Umbra's gaze was unwavering. "They are a weapon, the deadliest weapon in the universe. If we do not act now, we are already dead." His words were heavy with the gravity of their situation. The Tenketh needed a miracle, and Umbra believed that humanity might be it. In the depths of New Haven, a scarred, battle-hardened man named Joseph Gray was exactly the kind of lethal weapon Umbra was looking for. Gray had seen the worst of what the universe had to offer. For a decade, he'd been an elite special forces operator, honing his skills in the flames of war until he burned out, jaded and disillusioned. He had drifted through life, selling his deadly talents to the highest bidder. Yet, despite his hardened exterior, an ember of honor still burned within him, a yearning for something more than his empty existence as a hired gun. When an alien in strange robes approached him in a cyber bar and offered him the job of a lifetime, that ember flared to life. The Tenketh needed the best human warriors, and Gray was ready to provide them. His old teammates, cast-offs and mavericks, were a ragtag group of warriors broken by the world, but forged into instruments of war. If it took monsters to kill monsters, Gray would build the most fearsome pack of human monsters the galaxy had ever seen. The Tenketh's emissaries looked upon the humans with revulsion and mistrust. Gray understood their feelings. He had seen the darkness lurking in the human heart, but he also knew the heights humanity could rise to. It was his job to make the Tenketh see it too, to mold his warriors into a cohesive unit and earn the respect of the Tenketh even as the specter of galactic annihilation loomed. Failure was not an option. Trillions of lives across hundreds of worlds depended on Grey and his band of human warriors. They were the shield against the onrushing storm, the Tenketh's last desperate hope. Grey knew the odds. He knew the risks. One false step, and they'd all burn. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was spitting in the face of the odds. It was time to show the galaxy what a few exceptional humans could do. It was time to bring the monsters to heel. As Grey and his team stepped out of the dropship onto the blasted hellscape of Arik Prime, they were greeted by a scene of utter devastation. The once thriving Tenketh colony was in ruins. The towering spires had been reduced to rubble, and the streets were choked with the bodies of the fallen. The air was thick with smoke, blood, and death. "Jesus," muttered Lazarus, taking in the devastation with a grim set to his scarred features. "Looks like we're in for one hell of a fight, boys." Grey nodded, his icy blue gaze already scanning the horizon for threats. A Tenketh officer, his pristine armor battered and scorched, hurried up to the humans. "Commander Grey, thank the gods you've come," the alien said, his voice laced with exhaustion and desperation. "The Volkai are pressing on all fronts. Our lines are about to collapse. We need your team at the forward defenses immediately." The mission required meticulous planning. Grey's team, along with their Tenketh allies, would conduct a multi-pronged assault to overwhelm the Volkai defenses. The goal was not only to destroy the stronghold but also to capture valuable intelligence and disrupt any attempts by the Volkai to regroup. As the day of the operation approached, the tension among the team was palpable. They knew that success was crucial, both for their strategic objectives and for securing the alliance with the Tenketh. The assault began with a coordinated strike from space, targeting the Volkai defenses and creating a breach for the ground forces to advance. Grey's team led the charge, fighting their way through the stronghold's outer defenses and pushing deeper into the facility. Inside, they encountered fierce resistance from the Volkai. The enemy was determined and resourceful, utilizing every advantage to repel the attackers. The battle was intense, with both sides exchanging heavy fire and strategic maneuvers. Despite the Volkai's efforts, Grey's team made significant progress. They managed to secure critical areas of the stronghold and uncover valuable intelligence about the Volkai's plans and capabilities. The operation also revealed new weaknesses in the Volkai's defenses, providing insights for future engagements. As the battle reached its climax, Grey and his team faced a final, desperate push by the Volkai to defend their stronghold. The conflict was fierce, but Grey's leadership and the combined efforts of the human and Tenketh forces prevailed. The stronghold was captured, and the Volkai forces were driven back. In the aftermath of the operation, Grey's team regrouped and assessed the results. The victory was a significant boost to their morale and provided crucial advantages in their ongoing struggle against the Volkai. The capture of the stronghold and the intelligence gathered would shape their strategies for the future. Mara's efforts to rally Tenketh support had paid off. The success of the operation helped to solidify the alliance and address the concerns among the Tenketh leadership. The partnership between the humans and Tenketh was strengthened, and their combined forces were more united than ever. As Grey reflected on the recent events, he knew that the war was far from over. The Volkai were still a formidable enemy, and the conflict would continue to test their resolve. But with each victory and every challenge faced, they moved closer to their ultimate goal of securing peace and ensuring their survival. Fractures and fortitude. The capture of the Volkai stronghold was a decisive moment in the ongoing conflict, but it also marked a new phase of the struggle. With the stronghold secured, Grey and his team faced the task of consolidating their gains and preparing for the next phase of the war. In the weeks following the operation, the base was a hive of activity. The captured stronghold was being transformed into a forward operating base, and the intelligence gathered was being analyzed to plan the next moves. The human and Tenketh forces worked side by side, their cooperation now a symbol of their joint resolve. Despite the progress, there were signs of growing tensions. The Tenketh leadership, while generally supportive, had reservations about the continued reliance on human tactics. There were whispers of dissent, and some Tenketh officials were beginning to question whether the alliance was truly advantageous. Gray felt the weight of these concerns keenly. He knew that maintaining the unity of their coalition was as crucial as any military strategy. The success of their partnership depended not only on their victories, but also on their ability to address the doubts and issues that arose within their ranks. One evening, Gray was summoned to a meeting with Colonel Xorak and Mara. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense, and the expressions of the Tenketh officials conveyed a sense of urgency. "Gray," Xorak began, "we've received reports of increased dissent among the Tenketh leadership. Some are questioning the effectiveness of our combined efforts and the role of human tactics in the ongoing war." Gray nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I've heard the same concerns. What can we do to address these issues?" Mara spoke up, her tone serious. "The Tenketh are a proud and honor-bound species. They need to see the tangible benefits of our alliance and the value of our combined strategies. We must demonstrate our commitment and prove that our cooperation is leading to real results." Gray considered her words carefully. "I propose we launch a joint operation to strike at another critical Vokai target. This mission should showcase the strength of our combined forces and deliver a clear message of our effectiveness as allies." The plan was set into motion. The new target was a Vokai research facility known to be developing advanced weaponry and technology. The facility was located on a remote planet, heavily guarded and fortified. The goal was to cripple the Vokai's technological advancements and deliver a significant blow to their war efforts. Gray's team, along with their Tenketh counterparts, prepared for the operation. The mission required precise coordination and a high level of tactical expertise. The combined forces would launch a multifaceted assault, employing both human ingenuity and Tenketh prowess to overcome the Vokai defenses. The night before the operation, Gray held a briefing with his team. The atmosphere was focused and determined. "This mission is more than just a tactical strike," he said. "It's a chance to demonstrate our unity and our strength. We need to show that our alliance is a force to be reckoned with. Let's make this count." The operation began with a coordinated attack from space, targeting the facility's outer defenses and creating a breach for the ground forces to exploit. Gray's team, supported by Tenketh units, made their way through the facility's defenses, facing fierce resistance from the Vokai. The battle was intense, with both sides using their advanced technology and tactics to gain the upper hand. Gray's team utilized their human adaptability and problem-solving skills, while the Tenketh forces provided powerful support with their advanced weaponry and combat techniques. Inside the facility, the teams faced new challenges. The Vokai were well prepared and resourceful, deploying sophisticated defenses and countermeasures. The operation required quick thinking and adaptability, with Gray and his team working closely with their Tenketh allies to overcome obstacles and achieve their objectives. Despite the difficulties, the joint forces made significant progress. They managed to infiltrate key areas of the facility, disrupt the Vokai's research, and secure valuable technology and intelligence. The operation was a success, delivering a substantial blow to the Vokai's technological capabilities and demonstrating the strength of the human Tenketh alliance. In the aftermath of the mission, the mood among the team was one of cautious optimism. The operation had achieved its objectives and reinforced the value of their partnership. The success helped to address some of the concerns within the Tenketh leadership and provided a boost to morale. However, Gray knew that the war was far from over. The Vokai remained a formidable enemy, and the conflict would continue to test their resolve. The recent victories were important, but they were just steps in a larger struggle. As Gray reviewed the results of the operation and prepared for the next phase of their efforts, he remained focused on the ultimate goal: securing peace and ensuring the survival of their coalition. The challenges ahead would be significant, but with determination and unity, they were prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The dawn of new horizons. The victory at the Volkai research facility marked a pivotal moment in the war. The success of the joint operation not only dealt a severe blow to the Volkai, but also solidified the alliance between humans and Tenketh. The combined forces had proven their effectiveness, and the unity forged through their struggles became a powerful symbol of their determination. In the aftermath, the focus shifted to rebuilding and preparing for the next stages of the conflict. Gray and his team were recognized as heroes, and their leadership was instrumental in maintaining the momentum. The collaboration between human ingenuity and Tenketh's strength had transformed the war effort and inspired hope across the coalition. With the recent success, there was a renewed sense of purpose among the Allied forces. Plans were drawn up for a series of strategic operations aimed at further weakening the Volkai and securing critical territories. The alliance's leaders were determined to press their advantage and drive the conflict toward a resolution. The collaborative spirit extended beyond the battlefield. Joint efforts were made to integrate Tenketh and human technologies, enhancing their capabilities and creating new opportunities for cooperation. The technological and tactical advancements resulting from their partnership were groundbreaking, setting the stage for a new era of interstellar warfare. One evening, Gray found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. The war had tested their limits, but it had also revealed the strength of their alliance and the resilience of their combined forces. As he stood on the observation deck of the newly established headquarters, he gazed out at the stars, contemplating the future. Mara approached, her expression thoughtful. "We've come a long way, Gray. The victory was significant, but we must remain vigilant. The Volkai are still a formidable threat, and we need to stay focused on our goals." Gray nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "We've made great strides, but the fight isn't over. Our success has shown what we can achieve together, and that gives me hope. We'll continue to push forward and work toward a lasting peace." The alliance was now more determined than ever. The combined efforts of humans and Tenketh had forged a new path, one that promised to reshape their future and secure their place in the galaxy. The challenges ahead were daunting, but they faced them with a newfound confidence and unity. In the days that followed, Gray and his team worked tirelessly to coordinate the next phases of their strategy. The focus was on securing key positions, gathering intelligence, and preparing for future operations. The collaboration between human and Tenketh forces continued to strengthen, and their shared experiences created a bond that transcended their differences. As the war continued, the alliance made significant progress. The Volkai were pushed back, and their hold on critical territories was weakened. The joint efforts of the coalition brought about a series of victories that gradually shifted the balance of power. The final stages of the conflict approached, and the Allied forces prepared for a decisive confrontation. The culmination of their efforts was set to be a grand offensive aimed at ending the war and securing a lasting peace. Gray and his team stood on the brink of this final phase, ready to lead their forces into a new era. The lessons learned from their journey, the strength of their alliance, and the spirit of their partnership had prepared them for this moment. As they prepared for the final push, Gray reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them together. The trials and triumphs had shaped their alliance and forged a legacy of courage, resilience, and unity. The dawn of new horizons awaited them, and they faced it with unwavering determination. The story of their alliance, their struggle, and their triumphs would be remembered as a testament to the power of cooperation and the strength of the human spirit. The legacy of their efforts would inspire future generations and serve as a reminder of what could be achieved when diverse forces united for a common purpose. With a sense of pride and resolve, Gray and his team prepared to take the final steps toward securing their future. The dawn of a new era was on the horizon, and they were ready to embrace it with all the strength and hope they had gathered along the way.